Shalom Aleichem, everyone. This week's parasha was Parashat Va'Etchanan. Included in Parashat Va'Etchanan is the part that's known as Aseret HaDibrot, or what's been translated as the Ten Commandments. This is the second time that it's taught in the Torah. The first time was in Parashat Yitro, when it quote-unquote occurred that we had the Ma'amad Har Sinai and the Jewish people were taught the Ten Commandments. This week's parasha is Moshe Rabbeinu's repetition, and Sefer Devarim, repetition through prophecy. And this time around, he changes some of the details, but it's just a few words that he changes here or there, and there's a lot to discuss as to why. Let's go through the Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments that's taught in Parashat Va'Etchanan. The first one is Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, who brought you out of Egypt from slavery. Number two is Lo yeh lecha Elohim acharim al panai. Don't have any other gods. Don't serve any other gods in addition to me. So the first commandment is to believe that God exists. But someone might say, I believe that God exists, I also believe in other gods. That's the second commandment. Don't believe in other gods. So exclusively believe in Hashem. So the first one is belief in God. The second one is belief in not believing in others. Question is asked as to why Hashem says, I am God who took you out of Egypt, when he could have said, I am God who created the universe, created Shamayim Va'aretz, heaven and earth. Why does he stop by saying, I am God who took you out of Egypt? There's many answers offered, one of them being that Hashem was speaking to the people who left Egypt and said, this event that just occurred in your life, I was the one who orchestrated that. I was the one who was intimately involved with your life. So it's not that Hashem is, quote-unquote, putting forward his resume. Oh, I am God who did this, this, and that. If he wanted to state something great that he did, there's much greater things than bringing the Jewish people out of Egypt. For example, creating Egypt, creating the Jewish people, creating the whole world, creating heaven and earth, creating the galaxies. But he said, I am God who took you out of Egypt, because the people that he's spoken to were all born into slavery. And for them, it was very personal that they were brought out of slavery. So he was speaking to them on a personal level. That's the first two commandments. The third one is Lo tisa es Shem Adonai Elohecha lashav, not to take God's name or to say God's name in vain. Meaning someone was to swear, I swear to God, in a way that it's almost disgracing the name of God to use it in a mundane way. It's profaning God's name. And so when you're bringing the name of God, to treat it with respect. The fourth commandment is Shamor et Yom HaShabbat HaKadosho, to safeguard and to keep Shabbat, to sanctify it. This is one of the differences between the Ten Commandments that's taught here and the Ten Commandments that's taught earlier in Parashat Yitro. Earlier, the word that's used is Zachor et Yom HaShabbat HaKadosho, which means to mention or to remember. It's a positive action of mentioning Shabbat. Whereas this week it's Shamor et Yom HaShabbat, to safeguard, to keep it, which our sages explain mean from refraining from doing forbidden actions. They're both taught, they're both part of this mitzvah, just they're recorded differently in different places, but they're both elements of the same mitzvah of Shabbat. To mention Shabbat, to safeguard Shabbat, to do Kiddush, to do Havdalah, all of the positive things of sanctifying the Shabbat, and then also from refraining from all of the forbidden work and resting on Shabbat. Both of those are part of the mitzvah of Zachor and Shamor. Our sages teach us that these words of Zachor and Shamor were taught together. And what that means essentially is that they're both part of this mitzvah. The fifth of the Ten Commandments is honor your parents. This is a mitzvah that one can fulfill in this world by honoring his parents, by standing up when they walk into the room, by speaking to them respectfully, by treating them with respect. Other ways to show honor is not to sit in their seat, not to contradict their word, not to agree to their word to make it seem as though that they need your approval. Like, okay, fine, I agree with what you say. It's almost as making it seem that your parent needs it. Obviously, if the parent forgives or the parent understands, for example, if the parent tells the child, you don't need to stand up for me when I walk into the room, and that's okay. But all else equal, a child should show respect toward the parent in all of these ways that we mentioned, plus many other ways. And our sages also teach us that the mitzvah of honoring one's parents goes beyond this world, even after the person passes away, by doing things in their name. So those are the first five. Then, lo tirsach, not to murder; lo tin'af, not to commit adultery; lo tignov, not to kidnap, as how it's translated; Lo ta'aneh re'acha et shaker, not to swear falsely in court by giving a testimony. Now we're talking about giving testimony in court and it being false. So not to murder, not to commit adultery, not to kidnap, and not to testify falsely in court. The last of the 10 commandments is lo tachmod, not to covet, meaning to desire what someone else has, so much so that you try to take it from them. The Torah gives us examples of the person's wife or spouse, the person's house, the person's servants, the person's shore or ox, which could be translated as, in modern terms, as their car, or it could also be translated as their factories. Not to look at what other people have and say, I want that for myself, and therefore I'm going to try to take it from them. But what's interesting in this week's parasha is that it says lo tachmod, don't covet what your neighbor has, the same way it says it in Parashat Yitro. But Moshe adds another twist to it, and he says lo titaveh. Lo titaveh means don't even crave it. What's the difference? The difference is craving is when someone in their heart sees that other person, what that other person has, like let's say their spouse or their house, and says, I really want it. How can I get it from them? And they start plotting in their mind. That's to crave. The moment they start putting that plan into action to try to actually get it, and they get it, that's to covet. By getting it not because I wanted this for myself, like, wow, this person got this car, so I want to go buy that car also. There's nothing wrong with that. It's something specific, unique that this person has that I want to take it from them, plotting to get it from them. What we learn, this mitzvah is telling us, don't look at what other people have. Look forward to what you can accomplish and what you could receive and achieve in your own life. Don't look at other people's plates and try to say, I want what's on their plate. Focus on your own life, focus on what you can achieve for yourself without thinking about how to get it from others. These are the 10 commandments in this week's parasha. There's so much to discuss about all of them. They are all very relevant and applicable to our lives. Be'ezrat Hashem, may we always have this in our minds and always look forward to fulfilling these mitzvot as well as the rest of the Torah. Have a great week, everyone.